Hey. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here. Hope you're doing well where you are. A little late start this morning. Had to do a little research on a few questions that were coming in on the loop this morning. There was some, there's some definite movement out there in the job market space. I'm just had a former student reach out, mention they got a job with IBM. So super excited for Jacob. Jacob is a former student from another program, hearing about activity on Charlie's front, and got some updates from Rebecca. Super excited about that. Also heard about some struggles with related to freelance. I gotta be honest with you, freelancing is not for the faint of heart. It's one of those things that there's a lot of upside to freelancing, and then the upsides are pretty clear. Like, well, there's this illusion of the control of schedule. Like, you're in control of the schedule until, and that schedule can spin out of control if the contract between you and the other party isn't very clear. And I struggle with this as well, just to be completely honest. I've written contracts that I thought were drawn up contracts that I thought were pretty good. They protected me from downside risk, only to later discover that that had holes in it. So I totally get it. I can empathize on how things can go sideways, because they can. But I just want you to know that it's not uncommon to struggle with clients here and there. It's a big reason why I like to find a client and basically continue working with that client as long as possible. There's an era of familiarity that I think is really beneficial in the grand scheme of things, because you know how that client operates, they know how you operate, and it's like having a full-time job with that client, but being able to work with different clients, lots of clients, or very few clients if that's what you choose. And therein lies the truth about the upside of freelancing, is that if you determine that there's a client out there that you don't want to necessarily work with, it's your prerogative to say, you know what, I'm going to pass on that. But there's always that period where you've got to kind of discover what you're going to take and what you're going to pass on. And some people are in a situation where they've got to take every gig that comes down the pipe because financial constraints. Maybe there's all sorts of reasons why you would take a role that didn't necessarily align with you philosophically, or just you didn't like the people that you were going to work with, but you needed the cash. I get that. Mike Montero talks about that in his book, Design as a Job. He said if you're a designer and you worked at a gun manufacturer, and somebody says, why'd you take that job? There are a ton of good answers to that question, but one of the worst answers that you can give is job's a job. It's like if you said, hey, I needed to pay the bills, who am I going to judge? Am I going to judge? I'm not. I'm going to say, okay, cool. You basically said you were in a spot, and you really needed that money, and you had to go get that money. I get it. Just own it. But then there's lots of situations where that's not the case. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. we've got a lot of stuff to jump into today. So why don't we get this started? Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop. We have a medley, a trio again in the mix. We've got Katie. Welcome back, Katie. Welcome back. We've got I almost said Tejal. Tejal's not in here today. Tejal had questions, but that's been answered offline. Rebecca and Eve. That's right, Eve. Eve is working on her portfolio in Webflow, so we're going to be taking a look at that as well. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's get this started. So right away, we're going to start with Rebecca. Rebecca's first up here, and she's got some questions related to this sign-in. So by the way, Rebecca, I was taking a look at this. This looks really nice. I'm guessing this is the updated Super Melon site. It looks like an image, but this is coming along. Actually, this may be the other one. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is your screen grabs or their screen grabs. Anyway, it's looking clean. Let's come over here to the things that I know you're working on. So it says Supermelon. Sign up for Supermelon. Company name. What countries do you ship from? What countries do you ship to? What types of products do you ship? Back and next. So this seems like it's a registration screen. One thing, if this is multiple steps, I really would like a stepper at the top, like something to indicate where in the process I am. Because right now, as it stands, and this again is a screen grab, so I'm guessing that this is where you're at. Let's go down here to this one. What modes of transportation do you use? Truck. How much do you spend on purchases? What country is your? Yeah. So I get it. I definitely want to know how many steps there is to this process. That's going to be the big one for me. I do want to go back and check out your journal entry, though. And of course, I lose my mouse right at that moment. Sign-in process is all the way to the left of the page. Just want to know about the placement for now. I have content that need to redesign the look for him. I just want to make sure visual sizing is good and any other improvement. So I'm gonna like zoom way out here. I'm also gonna look here. Yeah, I'm guessing that I'm just gonna like bounce around here and take a look. Account settings, accounts. Yeah, it looks like this is what you're referring to. So this is sign up, and you said sign in process. All the way to the left of the page. I want to know about placement for now. I have content needed, but need to redesign the look of it for him. I just want to make sure visual sizing is good. I'm gonna have to look around because I'm not. Maybe it's on this website because this is sign up. You're talking about sign in, and of course. Now Figma has locked up on us. Okay, so let's go to the website. Okay, so it's not there. Yeah, it appears that it's on this accounts page, but the only thing I'm seeing right now is this sign up. So sign in should be relatively similar to sign up, but sign up I think needs a need some sort of. Sorry, of course I lose my mouse as I begin the middle of this. So, oh come on, really? Like now? Now you're gonna do this, mouse? Well, that's no good. This is the least of the things that I really want to lose in the middle of this, because now I've got to do this thing, where I'm on 2 levels. But still, whatever. Yeah, you said you had content, but I'm not really seeing content. You know, like I said, stepper, just something here along the top that helps us through. Figure out, is this a 3-step process? Is this a 5-step process? I don't know, but I do believe that this would be helpful to have, somewhere like through here. Give yourself some more space for it. Sorry, I'm very imprecise when I'm just using my fingers. But aside from that, I don't necessarily think you need, if you've got the logo, you don't need, this could just be sign up or sign in. I don't think you need 4 Supermelon. It's kind of implied. I think you've got slightly different color usages forthcoming based on what we've seen with the website. Orange seems to be the action color. So yeah, that's pretty much the old design. Okay. So, we'll come back to you, Katie. I promise. I'll be right there. I'm just trying to figure out where. That's wish list. Yeah, emails. Okay. Yeah. So, essentially, I think the sizing, spacing here is fine. He's clearly very much on the Amazon kick. It feels like Amazon, looks like Amazon, smells like Amazon, so it must be Supermelon. And I'm just going to reopen this because I want to make sure that I'm going to the right spot, and if it's going to open somewhere else, I want to know that right now. And it puts me right here. Yeah, so I think you're fine. Obviously, color, staying, leveraging the styles that you've created here would be ideal. But past that, I need to see the actual, you said you had content for it, so I think once you get that. Once you've got sign up here, let's get sign in, and let's move forward. Until then, I don't have a whole lot to add based on that question. Let's jump over here to Katie real quick. So Katie is working through the process of creating multiple versions of her landing page. Basically, she's going through a branding exercise, trying to figure out the spacing. As it stands right now, Katie has a few options on the board. A lot of this, for me, Katie, comes down to considerations of spacing. I'm not sure why that's built. Oh, weird. Interesting. Why? Sorry. It's like this is that is a frame. Why is that a frame? Ungroup it. Okay, let's see. Let's get the grid on these. Okay, so first things first. Let's see where your grid's at. It says you've got a grid. I don't see it though. Like, where is the grid at that's on this page? Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, so good. You've got a grid. Obviously, some of this is working. Some of this is not with the grid. And I'd be paying close attention to these areas over here to the side where things are just kind of, things are very clean here, and then it gets dirty over here. I don't think there's anything that keeps you from measuring that in. The same thing here. How it works. You can still leave space to the inside if you want. You've got gutters available too. Same thing here. If you want it to, you've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You've got 8. If you wanted to have a gutter between, you could also. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. The spacing obviously I think needs some work here to accommodate for the shapes. If you want it, I would say this: if you want it to go wider here, that's fine. Just make it reasonable. For instance, like if this is one column outside, like there's this one column edge, you could do the same thing down here. But I would move the text in, but where I'm at. I'm until you master grid usage, I'm just like stick to the grid. Down here, this for me, it's like, okay, again, grid, and then spacing. It's like spacing's really key, and this is what I was struggling with here. Is like, getting this together so that I want this to feel like a unit, and right now it wasn't feeling nearly as much like a unit as it should. And part of this is, can I get equal spacing to the top and bottom? Well, I know you've got this used somewhere else. Yeah, it's right here. Look at the difference and let's turn the come on, grids. I forget what the quick key is. There it is. So look at the difference in how this is structured versus that. Okay? This is the same basic structure, but this one's holding together as a unit, where this one is just kind of floating around. Okay? So the same idea applies here, in that, let's get that space in here, or you can go the other way. You can also remove some of that space and say, okay, well now I want to pull this up. And now you're getting into having similar space to the top and bottom. This is also an area where, you could just as easily, come in and put this underneath, or you could put this on top, centered. It's not one of those things that I necessarily. I'm really just looking for mastery of the grid at this point, and if you can do that, you're gonna go a long way. And then down here on this footer, one of the things that I'm always looking at here, and of course I go reaching for a mouse that's not there. Let's see if that was enough. Let's see if this is enough juice to get it going again. Come on, wake up, mouse. Sorry, I've got to try to get my mouse back. wait, where did it go? It's like it totally disappeared. Alright, well that stinks. Probably not getting my mouse back. So that means I gotta do this by hand. The other side of this is if you want it to, you know, say we're just gonna get rid of that. This is grouped. Oh, weird. Wait, what happened? There's something going on with that. I'm gonna ungroup that. Oh, weird. Where does the color go? Interesting. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening there. I was going to say, I'll just pull it back. You know, I was going to say that you could just like have this blue go up to the bottom of that if you wanted to. You could also have the blue, like over here, you've got the blue kind of enveloping it. And you could drag it down to the bottom and include it. I was mainly going to say, like, give the footer some space here at the bottom to breathe. Man, boy, this frame is struggling. I'm not sure why. Okay. Oh. And of course, this is not working. The big thing here is grid. Okay, and we've talked about grid before. Okay, so the constraints are to the top. That shouldn't stretch that way. Sorry, I'm just messing with the constraints here to see if I can make this stay and stay, and now when I come back in I should be able to pull this down. Thank God. Okay. Essentially, I've taken this and now instead of it being, well, it's gonna still, because I've scaled it to the top. You could drag it down and make it its own thing and give the space here. You could also drag it up and connect it to this so that it feels like part of the same unit. But regardless, most of the things that I'm seeing here are grid related. Up here, this is an interesting scenario where you've got this nice image. There's a couple different things that I might suggest looking at. One would be consolidating this into a unit to where all this can like kind of exist together instead of these two separates. Another would be to look at this in terms of like, do I just go all the way down the side with that and then do some sort of multiply, or maybe not even multiply, but normal pass through and then like 75, maybe I make it significantly darker, or I'll pick up that color right there perhaps and then say 60, and then you put the text on top of that, and it's essentially the same thing, except it's going to be a cleaner overall design. You could also measure this in and kind of come in and say, okay, well, it's going to be that, and it's going to be equal spacing on all sides, and obviously this text would be inside of that box. But it's just, we're trying to streamline that construction, okay? This one's interesting. My worry is that that image is having to scale so large. You're gonna have to export it really big for usage, and that's gonna basically slow down any website that it hits, because it's going to have to be so big to get to that size. And there's also the chance that it's going to pixelate apart, and you can't really see the food. I think over here you got the food. Over here you've got the food. But you know, you're clearly working through some ideas. So I don't want to poo-poo it out of hand, but I worry about the scale of this one, because keep in mind this is going to be responsive, and as that screen size changes, what's going to happen to that image in the background? This, you're going to get more fruit, more food. These things are going to move around, but you're still going to see dishes. Looks like food you'd eat. I'm not sure this looks like food I'd eat. But is it an option? Yeah, that's an option. I mean, sure, that's fine. And obviously there's something going on here. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, why wouldn't you just put the text just by itself in this space? Like, at least that's more food. I mean, it's a lime, but overall, I think this is a stronger image than that. This is a stronger image than that. I'm not sure that you need to go all the way down, and I'm not sure you get any benefit from having the color down here. So if nothing else, what I might suggest doing is cropping it like right here, because this is just a color. I mean, you could do that in like CSS or something. You wouldn't necessarily have to stretch that visual image all the way to the bottom and incur that bandwidth weight on the design. This is again is kind of what we talked about over here. Same thing with this down here. So really these tweaks that you're looking at, they are primarily on the hero image, really. You've got a few things here that are why choose us, and it's like here's the icons, and then now you're going, instead of icons you're going numbers, which is fine. The numbers aren't incredibly enticing. There's nothing like connecting them together. You could do a circle and then a bar and then a circle and then a bar and then a circle, just to kind of go to walk somebody through it. But it's fine. I think that you're closer to it over here than you are over here. I do kind of like the construct. It's interesting. I would like this construction. I keep reaching for my mouse and it's not there. It is sick. I like this construction a lot more if it's over here, because the image. I mean, I'm covering up the food here, but I'm covering up wood grain over there. So like, consider that sort of thing as well. Like what you came up with there, and yeah. So you're clearly working through it still, but remember, this is where we started at, right? And this was just too much, and too much on one side and not enough on the other. All right, you're stretching out. You're beginning to do more with it, so I support that. I think that's this is all a move in the right direction. To go from here down to here, this is better. You're getting comfortable with space, and I think that's really important. I would like to also see a version of this where this is just text and it's not on a pink background. It's just like aligned with this, like it's either centered or it's left aligned. Like, I think it's fine to do this overlapping on an image thing. That's fine. But at the end of the day, it's not adding a ton. It's just kind of a It's an interesting visual element, but it's not like there's not a specific reason why it's there. So overall, hope that gives you a few ideas, especially like this hero unit and that hero unit, and kind of because the covering, maybe an idea on how to do that 1 2 3, some ideas about down here on the bottom, some alignment suggestions on we support your lifestyle. Again, this is coming further and further. I think if you could make a round of adjustments, Katie, I would just package these up, get them into Usability Hub, and run a quick test. Like, run a test on these, see what comes back. Okay, because not everybody's watching this. So while there's going to be 2 or 3 people that are watching this, like probably, if I'm guessing, Eve, Rebecca, and you. Some others may lurk around, but I would make those adjustments that I mentioned, run a test, and see what actually comes back. Okay? All right. Eve, you are up next. And I want to go back to Eve's high fidelity prototype so that we have an idea of where she's starting. All right. So Eve is doing this in Webflow. And that means that we get an opportunity to, oh, hey, that's not what I was looking for. Yeah, here we go. So that's not Eve. This is Eve. And this is Eve's version right now as it stands inside of Webflow. I'm curious about why these are coming in at different sizes. I really don't know why. And one of Eve's questions has to do with alignment, because the way that this is working right now, and again, that's one of the things that sucks about Webflow is that it's very hard to work with other people in teams unless you pay through the nose to build a team. And you know what? I want to go look at that real quick, because I was doing some research on Webflow, because obviously I'm basically writing a bit about this right now, so that we can like comparatively price this for people. So if you go to pricing, Webflow has like 3 different things involving pricing. You can try it for free forever, like it says right there. That is fine. However, there's site plans, there's account plans, and then there's also teams. And there's 2 types of plans, except for that third one that we didn't really mention to you. So the site plan is just, if you want to launch this site, it's $12 a month. Okay, and that's if you pay annually. So it's $144 a year, and 25,000 visits, form submissions, custom URL. Those things are all great. All right, that's fine. Now, if you want to export your code, if you want to have like custom fonts, it's going to be an additional $16 a month. You have to upgrade to unlock those features. Additionally, there's team plans, which is $35 a person if you want to work collaboratively. I can't imagine what it would be if I told somebody that, hey, Figma is $35 a person to work collaboratively. Minimum 2 seats per team. Okay? So if you're working at a small agency and you need to work with somebody else, it's $70 a month just to use Webflow. Not ideal. Now that is the same for the Pro platform, and you get unlimited number of projects and client billing, and you get staging support and all of that. Okay, great. You also get to take the Webflow name off of it. You can't take the Webflow name off of it unless you're willing to pay at least $35 a month. Which, whatever. But what were we really talking about? We were talking about Webflow and Eve's the construction here, because when you come in, oh yeah, I remember why we brought that up. I can't just open up Eve's files, because we're not on the same quote team. So I'm going to inspect element on Eve, and the way that this is structured right now, it's very clear that. Oh, that's weird. Oh, weird. I like the little icon just kind of pops up out of nowhere. Okay. What's very clear is that the way this is created, the "Hi, I'm Eve" is in one. It is one line of text, and a digital product. This is another area of text, but one is positioned specifically, not related necessarily to the next. So what I'm considering here, and I just kind of want to look at the divs here. So I can come in. Okay, so this is, says it's in a container together. It says this is heading. My gut here says, okay, so you're using flex end. Sorry, I'm just kind of display flex, center, WebKit, blah blah blah. I'm just turning a lot of stuff off. Part of me believes that this is going to be a struggle to get this to properly align. Unless you're willing to align it to the left. Now, I do believe that there is a way to make this work. And I'm going to refresh. And the way that you can make this work is by you've got this insane margin left, margin right on this, and I'm not sure why the margin would be that. Okay, so here we go. Okay, you see, when you take the margins off, it's clear that this has been kind of pushed together. What I would like to see is I would like this heading and subheading, and then subheading, and then image. I would like this and this to be in a container together, which they are technically. And if we said, if I just said margin 0, that's not what I wrote. Margin 0, 200 pixels. Okay, great. That kind of gets it in the same general area. You have this thing where it's adjusting in size, right? Well, as it adjusts in size, I need it to hit certain breakpoints. So at different breakpoints, I think you've got to go in and you've got to really focus on adjusting these margins so that it aligns as desired. And what I would suggest doing is, instead of saying 200 pixels, maybe it's 20%. And that way it's a little more flexible. Because when you say, let's change this to 200 pixels. Sorry, it's 20 pixels. when we say 200 pixels, it's a lot more inflexible, in my opinion, because it's holding this to be 200 pixels regardless of the size. But when you say, watch what happens when I say 20%. Okay? 20% is a lot more forgiving. Yes, it does change in size, but it's not as belligerent, in my opinion. Additionally, if we make this one adjustment that says, you know, instead of flexbox end, I'm just going to keep it aligned with the name. You know, this becomes a lot less of a continual jump around issue, and that would allow you to, you know, one of the things that's pretty clear about what you're trying to do is you have this thing where you're like, hey, you know what? I want this to be, you know, 20% from, you know, maybe I want it to be 10% away and 0 from the bottom, and then 40% from that side. So you know, you want it, you know, when you look at this, you want it clearly over further from the left than the right, based on, and again, I'm basing this on the design as it stands right here. Okay, so that's pretty clear. You can do that with margin, and if we just say, hey, we're going to align these, and what do we lose here? Well, it's the alignment of the kitties. Okay, could we do something? Yeah, we can actually come in and we could, and I would love to be able to use my mouse. I would just love to be able to use my mouse. I'm going to try it one more time to see if I can get this to, because I really want to just draw. Please. Okay, connect at my. Really? It's like it's as if it lost my mouse altogether. Oh well, I'm not gonna be able to draw. But we could come in and basically say, all right, well, this is going to be a div, and the kitties are going to be a div, a stacked div, if you will, and those things could align. But there's imperfections with all of it, to be completely honest with you. And, you know, if I refresh this, you're wanting it like this, which is great at this breakpoint. But the only way that I know, and again, it's still just oddly sized here for some reason. I think the only way you're going to get this is if you put these both into individual divs and size them exactly the same size. But you're still going to have this odd. You're going to have that happen where Eve, this piece is just kind of not. It's not playing along because, you know, you've got different grid structures. You got these margins set up that don't want to play ball together. And I really think the only way to make this work is to well, and I mean, you still got it in a container, but this container is not. I mean, this container is for the whole thing. I really want these two things to be in a container by themselves. Okay, so intro heading and intro subheading need to be in their own container, their own section, if you will. I'm trying to think in terms of how Webflow does it, so that when you basically protect it away from the forces that are making this happen. Okay, because these things are moving individually right now because they're not packaged together. They're packaged in a larger container, but the forces that press on it from there are causing issues. So that's one thought. And actually, you know what? Let's come in and play with this a little bit over here. Now, I skipped ahead and I was looking at, okay, so how do we do the slider and whatnot? Because you've got other pages that you're going to be working on, Eve, and I want it to, I want it to jump in and say, okay, well, how would I do X? How would I do Y? Because when you look at the interface for Webflow, it's like, it reminds me a lot of Dreamweaver. Yes, you can do anything in it that you want to do, just as you can do with code, except it's kind of surfaced certain controls that, this is the box model. This is the CSS box model right here. It's not like you're not getting into code. It's just like you're not writing with semicolons and brackets. All right. So let's come down here and let's look at how might we take this section, and I'll go ahead and I'll give us some background color here, because your color is kind of like, it's not quite like that, it's more like that, something like along those lines, and yeah, that's fine. And then we'll come over here and give it a height. Actually, we won't give it a height. I don't want to give it a height. Let's come in and give this some text. So you've got a heading, and actually, I don't want to do that. I want to undo. I want to give it. I think what I actually want to do is I want to give this a div. Then I'm going to drop in here, and this div is where I'm going to suggest that we put our margin here. And it's interesting, can I put yeah, I can put it in percentages. Okay. Yeah, so that answers the question right away. It's, can I get this just into percentages? And we can. So that's fine. So that's 40% on one side, and we'll do 10% on the other. And again, a lot of this is like, ooh, how did they hide the thing? And it's frustrating, to be honest with you. I'm going to do 100 pixels to the top, and it might be like, oh, what's going on? Well, no, I don't want margin. Never mind. Reset that. I want padding. And one thing that you can do is you can do this little weird thing where you drag, and you can actually get both sides if you hold down Option. I'm not doing a very good job of it because I don't have a mouse. All right, so we've got this now. And I accidentally hid all my controls, which is lovely. Thanks, Webflow, for nothing. Let's drag this heading in. So I've got a heading. This is hi. Oh, gosh. Oh, really? Really? Hi, I'm Eve. Right? Now, we need to go in and color this. Just so we can see it. I thought it was right here. That's the background. I honestly forget how to color typography in this platform. Oh, I think I have to have it selected, don't I? Yep, I do. Now I can color it. That's fine. So there's hi, I'm Eve, and then you need some text below that, obviously. Oops, sorry, wrong control. This one. Drag this in below it. I guess I don't have to actually have that selected. I can just do that. So here's the paragraph that would be underneath it, right? I'm going to come back over and just grab a digital product designer with that. Man. Oh, I can't drag. Okay. So right now we've got this text here, and as it stands, you know, I haven't gone through and obviously done much with it, but whoa, where did that go? That was weird. Get me back to the designer. Thanks, Webflow. Webflow doing weird things today. Yawn. And of course, it didn't save that, because I've been a very bad person in life. Alright, so there's that. There's that. I do like the fact that Webflow's in the browser. I mean, I'll give credit where credit's due. I do not like the fact that I struggle mightily with it. Okay. So now, you know, you've got this is the setup, right? And the question is, all right, so if I go into preview mode, why does it do that? Well, the reason why it does that is it's holding 40% to this side and 10% to this side. And then this shape here in the middle is going to get larger. Okay? If we switched out from percentages and made it more rigid, let's see here. We can go to, let's just go to this section, the div block here, and instead of, get the spacing here, instead of 40%, let's go back to the 200 and pixel to 200 pixel. All right, so that seems to hold together, right? But the problem is, you know, that's very rigid, and you know, obviously it's even further apart this way, right? The one thing you could do is, let's turn this off. This div, we could set a width on it. We say that, hey, the width is 40%. Not 4%, Chris. 40%. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that regardless of what happens, it's going to hold together relatively tightly. So this is where there might be an opportunity. Sorry. Takes me a second to figure out where exactly I am. This is where we might have an opportunity, because I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, okay, well, this is now 40% as well. And I'm not even going to worry about this size. Okay? I'm just going to say 0. All right? Because it doesn't matter. What matters is what I have right here. So if I come in and say, okay, well, this is going to be, instead of 24, I'm going to shrink this down to the point where I get the alignment that I'm looking for. Okay? And of course, you could tweak this and make it align. You know, it's going to be tough because this alignment is well, I can tell you how you could cheat it. Let's just do this real fast. The way you could cheat this is to come in and say, okay, well, you know, I'm gonna come in and I'm just gonna padding this over a little bit. Okay. Great. All right. So now that's cheated, right? It lines up perfectly. Well, what's it do responsively? Well, it's still that. Why is it that? Well, right now it's that because it has a flexible width. Okay, this is still 40%. Now, as we come in and inspect it, you know, it's going to hold together pretty well. You know, notice it's not breaking apart like the other version is, but now it's starting to widen out. So what we could do, and this makes it, what I'm about to do makes it more brittle, but if I said, okay, well, now you're 300 pixels, I didn't mean that, 300 pixels, so it's 300 pixels in size. All right, well, maybe that's not enough. Maybe 500 pixels is the way to go. Maybe that's a little too wide. Maybe 400 pixels. All right, we're in the ballpark now. At 400 pixels, when we go to preview this, stays together. Well, why is that? Well, it's because that box is set to a specific size, and it's not going to matter what you do. It's going to hold together until it gets to a break point where it no longer can reasonably hold together. All right? And as you can see, it just keeps shrinking on down, and that's because the other breakpoints have not been settled. Like if we go look at this, that's not going to work very well. You're going to need to reset the breakpoint for mobile because we've set this rigid size to it. But, you know, up here, you get away from the constant movement that you were experiencing over here. Like over here, this is moving all over the place. And it's like, well, how do I control this thing? Well, it's by coming back saying, okay, I'm going to put you, sorry, and I'll turn this off. The thing you have to do is you have to come in, you have to create a section. You've got the section right now. You put a div inside of that. You say, hey div, you are this wide, and I'm going to design for you to be a specific structure as you go up and down. When you get over here to mobile, you'll see that, oh, well, this doesn't work anymore. Well, of course it doesn't work anymore. This is where you have to come in and say, okay, well, this is no longer 40%. This is like 5%. Okay, and that's fine. It just is what it is. Maybe it's 2% actually. Oops, I did it again. Maybe it's 2%. But now this div has to be, you know, 98 or sorry, 96%, and maybe you'll say this is 2% on that side. Okay, but now you've got to do some work here, and what's this work involve? Well, you've got to come through and you've got to say, okay, well, you're now not going to be 19 pixels. You're going to be, maybe 14 pixels, or maybe you're going to design this slightly differently for mobile. But all I'm saying is once you get these things sorted out, you can have a design for desktop, you can have a design for mobile. You've got to tweak it, but this structure here is what's going to allow you to avoid this thing that's happening right now. Okay? And right now that's driving you nuts. Okay? So let's see what you do with that today. We can come back to, you had some questions about this down here. And I think a lot of that we'll be able to cover on this afternoon's call, because there is some sizing parameters that for images that I think will be helpful. I was working through some stuff here for you related how do I get this this slider to scale like that. Well, it's coming in at the different breakpoints and adjusting each one. So that it's properly covering the space. And I think that's probably what you're experiencing here, is that it's not really covering the space. The specific thing, if I might point out really quickly, is what happens. Let's go into this slider, and let's take a look at this slide 1. So if we come in here on the image, we've got a couple of images. Some of this is what happens when it's set to different parameters. Like, see, it's no longer covering. When you have cover set, it makes it regardless of how big it is, it will cover the space necessary. And sometimes this slider's depth is going to change. So you need to be able to adjust for that. I'm going to come in here and inspect element really fast, and we should see the slider change slightly in size. Oh, that's for tablet. Okay, so tablet kicked in. Actually, I've set a specific height for the slider, so that may also be something we want to look at for this section down below. But if you've learned anything through this process, Eve, what I hope it is that just because there's no, quote, code in Webflow doesn't mean that you're not thinking like you would think in front end. And the trouble there obviously is, wow, you haven't even been through front end yet. So this is the trouble that people get into when they look at Webflow. They're like, oh, no code. And it's like, yeah, but you've got to think like code. So this is going to be this is why they say that there is a learning curve with Webflow, because you're learning what I would hope people would learn when they learn code. So and of course, did I stop streaming? Jeez. Anyway, all right. That's going to do it for today's edition of the Feedback Loop. I hope this is beneficial for everyone involved. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I will see some of you later today. And otherwise, for the rest of you, I look forward to chatting with you tomorrow. Take care.